In the heart of a village where friendship blooms like the warmth of the sun over the hills, lives the story of Binga and Beo. Since childhood, these two men were more than friends, they were soul brothers, sharing not only laughter and adventures but also a deep connection to the land that saw them grow. They were hunters, exploring the paths of the forest together, bringing sustenance to their families and stories to their lives. Wherever Binga was, Beo was not far behind. Their voices echoed among the trees, their laughter vibrating in the air like the song of birds at dawn. But fate challenged them in unexpected ways. As their lives intertwined on the forest trails, a shadow approached silently, testing the limits of their loyalty and trust. What happens when the line between friendship and sacrifice becomes blurred? When the weight of a secret becomes greater than the friendship that guards it? This is the story of how two souls, united by the strongest bond nature can weave, face the storms of life together. A story of courage, sacrifice, and the painful truth about what it really means to share everything, even the burden of a secret. And so, when fate cast its dark shadow over Binga, a challenge he could not face alone emerged. Unable to conceive with his beloved wife, he faced the bitter reality of infertility. The weight of this painful truth hung over him like a dark cloud, while the eyes of the village watched in silence. It was then that he turned to his closest friend, Beo. In a moment of despair and vulnerability, he made a request that would challenge everything they knew about loyalty and sacrifice. He asked Beo to do the unthinkable, to cross the line that separates friendship from betrayal, in the hope that he could bring joy where there was only despair. Beo, with a heart torn between the duty of friendship and a heavy conscience, reluctantly agreed. Silently, he bore the burden of the broken promise, as the heavy steps of guilt echoed in every thought. But for Binga, it was an act of desperation, a final attempt to cling to the hope that was slipping through his fingers. And so, amidst the heavy sighs of the night and the shadows that danced on the walls, the secret became the bond that united them. A secret hidden in the interstices of their shared stories, a fragile thread that kept them together as the weight of silence grew. But fate, relentless as always, had other plans for them. What began as an act of desperation would transform into a storm that would test not only their friendship but their very souls. And so, the story of Binga and Beo unfolded, woven with the threads of loyalty and betrayal, hope and despair, in a labyrinth of emotions that neither could have foreseen. But the secret they had so carefully kept soon became a painful reality for all involved. When Bisola, Binga's wife, finally conceived, it was not by her husband but by Beo, his trusted friend. The birth of Beo's son, Oli, brought not only the joy of new life but also the weight of a lie that had become impossible to hide. Binga, consumed by the pain of infertility and the burden of the secret, found himself enveloped in a storm of emotions. What began as an act of desperation now turned into a labyrinth of guilt, anger, and betrayal. Ali's presence in Binga's home was a constant reminder of his own inadequacy, an open wound he could not ignore. As the days passed, the tension between Binga and Oli grew. The young boy, innocent of his own story, faced the relentless wrath of a father who could not see beyond his own pain. Binga's sharp words cut like knives, each blow a manifestation of his own anguish and self-loathing. Bisola, caught between her love for her husband and the pain for her son's situation, struggled to keep her family together. She was the fragile pillar holding up the house, desperately trying to calm the turbulent waters threatening to engulf them all. But her words of comfort were often silenced by the shadows of the past that refused to disappear. And so, within the walls that were once filled with laughter and love, now echoed the silent cries of a family torn apart by betrayal and pain. Where there was once friendship and camaraderie, now lay a chasm of resentment and mistrust, separating what was once inseparable. At the heart of this story lies the bitter lesson about the limits of love and loyalty, about how secrets can corrode even the strongest bonds. For Binga, Beo, and Bisola, the road ahead would be marked by the difficult journey of forgiveness and redemption, a path they would have to walk together or apart. And so, the saga of Binga, Beo, and Bisola continues, woven with the delicate threads of truth and lies, hope and despair, in a tale that echoes through the ages as a reminder that our choices can shape not only our own destiny but also the destiny of those we love. The revelation of the truth came like a sharp blade, cutting through the last fragile fibers that still held together the web of lies and deceit. Binga, consumed by pain and anger, confronted Beo with the betrayal that had corroded not only his trust but his very soul. Beo's eyes, once so full of warmth and camaraderie, now reflected the unbearable weight of guilt. The confession tore apart the veil of friendship they had built since childhood. What was once a brotherhood forged by time and adversity now crumbled into fragments of disillusionment and despair. Bitter words were exchanged, old wounds were exposed, and the pain of such a deep betrayal hung in the air like a permanent shadow. For Bisola, the revelation was an even more painful blow. What began as a dream of love and family had now turned into a nightmare of lies and disappointments. The imminent separation was a painful inevitability, an irreparable fissure in the fabric of her life that she had no way to mend. Guilt haunted her, guilt for her own part in the tragedy that had unfolded before them. And so, what remained of that once unshakable friendship dissolved like sand slipping through fingers. Beo left, carrying with him not only the weight of his own betrayal but also the burden of losing a lifelong friend. Binga, in turn, plunged into an abyss of loneliness and despair, losing not only his wife but also his faith in those he trusted. The days that followed were marked by an oppressive emptiness, where what was once life had now turned into an existence of shadows and regrets. The fate of Oli, the innocent child at the center of this storm, was now a painful uncertainty. His small hands held the fragile shards of a broken family as he tried to understand the strange effects of love, betrayal, and loss. And so, in the ruins of a friendship and a family, echoed a bitter lesson about the consequences of our choices. For Binga, Beo, and Bisola, the path ahead would be marked by the scar of betrayal and the search for redemption, a journey that would lead them to face their own harshest truths and seek a sense of forgiveness that might never be found. Thus, the tale of Binga, Beo, and Bisola continues, a story of lost love and friendship, intertwined with the pain of a betrayal that left deep and lasting scars. A reminder that even in the darkest shadows of our lives, there is still a faint light of hope, a tenuous possibility of reconciliation and healing. As the days dragged on, the pain became a constant presence in the lives of Binga, Beo, and Bisola. Each bore their own cross of regret and despair as they tried to find a way through the ruins of their once intertwined lives. For Binga, the discovery of the betrayal had triggered a spiral of turbulent emotions. The anguish and anger he felt towards Beo were mixed with a deep hurt from Bisola's betrayal. How could he have been so blind to miss the signs? The child he believed to be his was now a painful symbol of deceit, an open one that consumed him day after day. Beo, in turn, faced a burden of guilt and remorse that haunted him like a constant shadow. The friendship he and Binga had shared since childhood had been sacrificed in the name of an unthinking desire and a distorted act of compassion. The weight of his choice crushed him as he struggled to find words that could repair the irreparable. And Bisola, surrounded by the devastation her decision had unleashed, wrestled with the guilt and pain of losing not only her husband but also her self-trust. The son she carried was now a fragile link in a broken chain, a constant reminder of the irreparable loss she had caused. Where once there was hope, now only a painful void remained. Separation became inevitable, a decision made not only by the weight of the circumstances but by the deep emotional scar that had settled between them. Unspoken words hung in the air like a dense fog as each went their separate ways, seeking redemption and forgiveness. And so, what was once an inseparable friendship transformed into fragmented memories and broken hearts. Time passed, but the wounds of betrayal did not heal. The fate of Oli, the innocent child, remained uncertain, a silent witness to the fragility of human bonds and the cruelty of our own choices. In the ensuing silence, each was confronted with the painful truth that sometimes the greatest enemy resides within ourselves. The shadows of the past continued to haunt them, a constant reminder of the choices that shaped not only their lives but also the lives of those they loved. And so, as time marches on relentlessly, Binga, Beo, and Bisola remain united by the tenuous thread of a shared story, marked by betrayal and loss. In a world where the scars of the soul are deeper than any physical wound, their journey continues, a painful search for redemption and reconciliation that may never be fully achieved. Binga's revelation of Beo's betrayal was like an earthquake in the lives of the two friends. Beo, stunned and ashamed, could not believe that his impulsive and momentary decision had led to such devastating consequences. He faced Binga with a mix of guilt and despair, trying to articulate words that could mitigate the damage caused. But Binga's words were sharp as knives, cutting not only through their friendship but also through Beo's heart. "How could you do this to me, Beo? You were my brother, my best friend," Binga shouted, his eyes filled with tears of disappointment and anger. The bitterness in his voice echoed in the air, laden with a deep sadness and a sense of betrayal that consumed him from within. Beo, without adequate words to apologize, tried to argue that it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, but his words fell into the void before the emotional storm Binga was facing. He watched his life crumble before his eyes, not just his ruined marriage but also the loss of his most cherished friendship. Meanwhile, Bisola, Binga's wife, was torn apart by the discovery. The weight of betrayal hung over her like a dark cloud, obscuring her vision of a once promising future. She found herself at an emotional crossroads, torn between her love for her husband and the pain caused by Beo's betrayal. Every look, every gesture, was now shrouded in an aura of distrust and hurt. The news spread through the small village quickly, like wildfire in dry grass. Neighbors whispered and cast curious, judgmental glances, leaving Binga and Beo exposed to the relentless scrutiny of the community. The two men, once respected and beloved by all, were now seen with suspicion and pity. The lifelong friendship was crumbling before them, and neither knew how they could rebuild what had been destroyed. Binga found himself sinking into a sea of bitterness and distrust, unable to forgive his friend for violating not only his trust but also the boundaries of his morality and ethics. Beo, on the other hand, was consumed with guilt and regret. He wished he could undo everything, go back in time, and make a different choice. But time, relentless as ever, continued to march forward, leaving only deep scars and a void where a flourishing friendship once existed. Bisola desperately tried to be the voice of reason and forgiveness, but her words fell on deaf ears as the weight of the past continued to crush any hope of reconciliation. In the months that followed, Binga and Beo drifted apart, each bearing the burden of their choices and facing the consequences of their actions. The village, which once celebrated their inseparable friendship, now witnessed the sad conclusion of a story of betrayed trust and broken hearts. Days dragged on slowly in the village, marked by the shadow of betrayal that hung over Binga, Beo, and Bisola. Each was immersed in their own pain and regret, trying to navigate a sea of turbulent emotions that seemed never-ending. Binga, once a man of calm and generous temperament, had transformed into a cocoon of bitterness. The pain of betrayal burned in his chest, consuming him with a rage he could barely control. In the silence of his lonely nights, he wondered how he could have been so blind, so naive to trust his friend of so many years so blindly. Every time he looked at his son, the boy he believed to be his own blood, a mix of love and hate overwhelmed him. The child, innocent of all guilt, had become the painful symbol of his greatest betrayal. Beo, in turn, faced his own internal battles. He carried the weight of guilt like a chain around his neck, suffocating him with every breath. His thoughts were a labyrinth of remorse and despair, seeking an escape that seemed beyond his reach. He desperately tried to reconcile with Binga, begging for forgiveness, but his words fell into the void of an irreparably broken friendship. Bisola, the woman at the center of this emotional hurricane, felt lost between her love for Binga and the deep wound caused by Beo's betrayal. She found herself torn between two men who represented different pillars of her life, both now marked by the same painful scar. Her own journey to forgive and move on was a road full of obstacles, with each step leaving a deep impression on her broken heart. The village, which once embraced Binga and Beo as prodigal sons, now watched them with curious and judgmental eyes. The silent scrutiny of the community was a constant reminder of how their decisions had affected not only their lives but also the complex web of relationships surrounding them. As time passed, the emotional wounds did not heal but only grew deeper. Gradually, life went on, but what had been lost between Binga and Beo, between childhood friends who shared dreams and adventures, could never be recovered. The story of Binga, Beo, and Bisola served as a painful reminder to everyone in the village of the dangers of betrayal, the fragility of trust, and the devastating consequences of decisions made in moments of weakness. The emotional scars they carried were silent witnesses to a broken friendship and a love torn apart. As the sun set over the village, casting a golden glow over the green hills that once witnessed the pure joy of Binga and Beo's friendship, the shadow of betrayal remained as a grim reminder that some choices, once made, changed the course of lives forever. The betrayal among Binga, Beo, and Bisola cast a dark shadow over the once vibrant and welcoming village. As days turned into weeks and months, the emotional wounds continued to bleed, growing deeper, challenging the very fabric of the community. Binga, now a tormented soul, found himself in an endless cycle of despair and anger. What was once a man with a warm heart and an easy smile had now become a specter of himself, wrapped in dark clouds of bitterness. The nights were long and lonely, where he confronted the echo of his own rash decisions. The pain of seeing his son, the result of betrayal, was a constant stab in his already torn heart. He struggled to find a way through the maze of tumultuous emotions, seeking a redemption that seemed increasingly unattainable. Beo, in turn, carried the weight of guilt like a heavy burden on his tired shoulders. He desperately tried to repair the damage, seeking forgiveness and trying to rebuild the bridge he had burned. Each attempt to reconcile with Binga was met with looks of distrust and sharp words, like knives that pierced his already wounded soul. He wondered if he could ever be forgiven, if he could ever forgive himself for betraying not just a friend, but a brother at heart. Bisola, caught between two men she loved in different ways, felt like a navigator lost in a sea of guilt and sorrow. She loved Binga, but the ghost of betrayal hung over them, filling silent moments with almost palpable tension. The love they once shared was now obscured by the shadows of the past, and her attempt at reconciliation was a tightrope walk over an emotional abyss. Her heart was broken, torn between the desire to fix what was broken and the fear of the unknown future. The village, which once knew them as inseparable friends and respected community members, now watched them with eyes full of compassion and judgment. Whispered gossip echoed through the narrow streets, carrying the weight of lives shattered by betrayal. Every step Binga, Beo, and Bisola took was followed by murmurs of curiosity and pity, constantly reminding them of what they had lost and the scars that would never fade. As time moved inexorably forward, the three tried to rebuild their lives, but the emotional ruins they left behind were a constant reminder of the rash choices that brought them there. Trust, once freely given among childhood friends, had now become a precious coin shattered into 1,000 pieces, impossible to glue back together. The story of Binga, Beo, and Bisola echoed through the hills of the village as a painful narrative about the dangers of betrayal, the vital importance of trust, and the devastating consequences of decisions made under the weight of the moment. Each of them bore the indelible marks of that dark time, where the lines between love and betrayal, forgiveness and resentment, intertwined in a bitter dance that none of them asked to dance. As the sun set over the village, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, they knew that nothing would ever be the same. The wounds might heal, but the scars would remain as silent witnesses to a broken friendship and a love that was tested to the breaking point. The lesson learned in those dark days would be a cornerstone in their lives, forever reminding them that impulsive decisions have the power to shape destinies in unpredictable and irreversible ways. As the days turned into years, the echoes of Binga, Beo, and Bisola's story became a part of the village's lore, a cautionary tale told to younger generations about the complexities of human relationships and the perilous path of unguarded emotions. Binga, though still bearing the heavy burden of betrayal, slowly began to find ways to cope with his anger and bitterness. He threw himself into his work, spending long hours tending to his fields and repairing his home, trying to rebuild not just the physical structures around him but the shattered pieces of his heart. In the quiet moments of dusk, when the sky was painted in the hues of fading daylight, he would often sit by the window, reflecting on the choices he made and the consequences they brought. The once warm and open-hearted man was now a figure of solitude, a living testament to the destructive power of betrayal. Beo, grappling with the weight of his guilt, took a different path. He left the village, hoping that distance might help him escape the shadows of his past. He wandered from place to place, trying to find a way to forgive himself and to understand the depths of his actions. In his travels, he encountered many people and heard many stories, each one adding a new perspective to his understanding of life and forgiveness. Yet, no matter how far he traveled, the memories of Binga and Bisola remained with him, haunting his dreams and reminding him of the irreversible impact of his decisions. Bisola, caught in the aftermath of the storm, struggled to find her own path forward. She focused on raising Oli, pouring all her love and energy into her son, hoping that he might grow up free from the shadows that hung over their family. She became a pillar of strength for Oli, teaching him about love, trust, and the importance of making thoughtful decisions. Her heart, however, remained divided, constantly torn between the love she still felt for Binga and the remorse for the pain her decisions had caused. The village, once vibrant and full of life, seemed to carry a subdued air after the betrayal became known. The residents, who had once looked up to Binga and Beo, now viewed their own relationships with a more cautious eye. The story of the two friends became a reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating effects of betrayal. It was a lesson that resonated deeply within the community, shaping the way people interacted with one another and the values they held dear. In time, the physical scars of that period began to fade, but the emotional ones lingered. The annual Harvest Festival, which used to be a time of unbridled joy and celebration, now carried a more somber tone. The laughter and music were still present, but there was an underlying sense of reflection and caution. The older members of the village would often recount the story of Binga, Beo, and Bisola, ensuring that the lessons learned from their tragedy would not be forgotten. As Oli grew older, he began to ask questions about his father and the events that had shaped his early years. Bisola, with a heavy heart, told him the truth, hoping that understanding the past would help him navigate his future with more wisdom. Ali listened, absorbing the pain and strength in his mother's voice, and vowed to honor the lessons learned from their family story. He became a symbol of hope and resilience in the village, a reminder that even in the wake of betrayal, there is a possibility for growth and redemption. Binga, Beo, and Bisola's lives continued to intersect in small but significant ways. They would occasionally cross paths during village events or when tending to mutual friends in times of need. Each encounter was filled with unspoken words and lingering pain, but also a gradual sense of acceptance. They had all been irrevocably changed by the events that transpired, but they were also bound by a shared history that could never be fully erased. In the end, the story of Binga, Beo, and Bisola became more than just a tale of betrayal. It was a testament to the complexity of human emotions and the enduring power of forgiveness and resilience. It highlighted the importance of thoughtful choices and the lasting impact they can have on our lives and the lives of those we love. Through their journey, they learned that while some scars never fully heal, they can serve as powerful reminders of our strength and capacity for growth. As the sun set over the village each evening, casting long shadows over the hills and valleys, the story of Binga, Beo, and Bisola remained a poignant reminder of the delicate balance between trust and betrayal, love and pain. It was a story that would be told for generations, a timeless lesson on the power of human connection and the enduring quest for redemption. As the seasons changed, the village continued to thrive, and new generations grew up hearing the tale of Binga, Beo, and Bisola. Their story became a cornerstone of the community's collective memory, serving as a powerful lesson in the complexities of human relationships. Binga, though still bearing the weight of his past, found solace in the rhythm of daily life. He became known as a hard worker, a man who could be relied upon for his strength and perseverance. His fields flourished under his care, and he gradually rebuilt the trust of his fellow villagers through his consistent and honest efforts. The bitterness that once consumed him began to fade, replaced by a quiet resolve to live his life with integrity. He often found comfort in the simple joys of nature, the rustling of the leaves, and the songs of the birds, providing a peaceful backdrop to his reflective moments. Beo, having wandered for many years, eventually found his way back to the village. His journey had taught him much about forgiveness, both seeking it and granting it to himself. He returned with a humble heart, ready to face the consequences of his actions and hoping for a chance at redemption. The villagers were initially wary, but they gradually saw the change in him. He approached Binga with a sincere apology, acknowledging the depth of his betrayal and expressing his remorse. Binga, though still hurt, saw the sincerity in Beo's eyes and extended a tentative hand of reconciliation. It was not a complete restoration of their old friendship, but it was a start. Bisola continued to be a pillar of strength for her son, Oli, who grew into a young man of remarkable character. She remained active in the village, offering her wisdom and support to those in need. Her own journey of forgiveness was ongoing, and she found solace in the bond she shared with Oli. She encouraged him to learn from their past, to build his future on a foundation of honesty and compassion. Ali, aware of the complex dynamics of his family's history, became a beacon of hope in the community, embodying the resilience and grace his mother had instilled in him. The village itself, shaped by the lessons of the past, became a place of reflection and growth. The elders often recounted the story of Binga, Beo, and Bisola during communal gatherings, ensuring that the younger generations understood the importance of trust and the consequences of betrayal. These stories fostered a culture of openness and communication, where conflicts were addressed with empathy and understanding rather than suspicion and judgment. Over time, Binga, Beo, and Bisola found new ways to contribute to the village. Binga became a mentor to young farmers, sharing his knowledge and experience to help them cultivate their lands. His once solitary existence was gradually filled with the camaraderie of those who respected and admired his resilience. Beo dedicated himself to community service, working tirelessly to repair the harm he had caused. His efforts to rebuild trust were met with a mixture of skepticism and appreciation, but he remained steadfast in his commitment to make amends. Bisola, with her compassionate nature, became a counselor of sorts, offering guidance to those struggling with personal dilemmas. Her ability to understand the complexities of human emotions made her a trusted confidant. She also organized community events, creating opportunities for villagers to come together, celebrate, and support one another. These gatherings were a testament to her belief in the power of unity and forgiveness. The village's physical landscape also reflected the healing process. New structures were built, old ones were repaired, and the fields bloomed with vibrant crops. The market square, once a place of whispered gossip, became a bustling hub of activity and commerce. The laughter of children and the harmonious chatter of adults filled the air, a stark contrast to the somber atmosphere of the past. As Binga, Beo, and Bisola grew older, their perspective shifted. They began to see their story not just as a tragedy but as a testament to the human capacity for change and growth. They understood that while they could not undo the past, they could influence the future by living with integrity and compassion. Their interactions, though still tinged with the shadows of their history, became more meaningful as they embraced the complexities of their shared journey. The legacy of their story continued to inspire the village. Young couples looked to Binga, Beo, and Bisola as examples of how to navigate the challenges of relationships with honesty and forgiveness. Parents used their tale to teach their children about the importance of trust and the far-reaching consequences of their actions. The village, once fractured by betrayal, had grown stronger through its collective efforts to understand and heal. As the sun set each day, casting a warm glow over the hills and fields, Binga, Beo, and Bisola would often find themselves reflecting on their journey. They understood that their story was not just about the pain of betrayal but also about the enduring power of forgiveness and the possibility of redemption. They had each found their own path to healing, and in doing so, had woven a new narrative of hope and resilience for themselves and their community. The story of Binga, Beo, and Bisola, though rooted in a painful past, had blossomed into a tale of strength and transformation. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is potential for light, and that through understanding, empathy, and a commitment to growth, it is possible to rebuild what has been broken and create a future filled with possibility.